To our webinar on the academic freedom syllabus. My name is Isaac Kamola. I teach political science at Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. It's kind of a damp, unusually dark and dreary August day here in Hartford. I'm also the director of the Center for the Defense of Academic Freedom at the AAUP. And the Center for the Defense of Academic Freedom, known as CDAF for short. I don't particularly like the acronym, but I think it's what we're stuck with. But CDAF for short is it's a center, it's a new center at the AAUP that is funded with a generous grant from the Mellon Foundation. And the idea behind CDAF is to create tools and resources that help people understand and defend academic freedom. The kind of project came out of this recognition that there is, that the AUP has historically um, um, created tools and resources and has thought a lot about understanding academic freedom in terms of the relationship between employers and employees, how institutions respect their faculty, and that relationship between academic institutions and their faculty. However, increasingly, as we know, the threats to academic freedom are coming from not just our own institutions, but governors and legislators and courts and the federal government, immigration services, the Department of Education itself, the weaponization of civil rights law. And so it's increasingly important that we kind of create the tools and resources that are needed to defend academic freedom. And part of that is to be able to explain to as wide of an audience what academic freedom is. So the goal of CDAF is to create resources and tools that can help faculty, but also a broader public explain and understand and explain what academic freedom is. So one of the tools that we've developed here at the center is this academic freedom syllabus, which I will be kind of going over today. And hopefully by the end of this webinar, you'll have a good sense of what's on the website, what tools and resources are there, and also some ideas about how to incorporate them within your own class. But before I do that, I just want to have many thanks. I'm going to thank Kate Taylor, who is the program coordinator at CDAF and does all things that are necessary in order to keep this and other events running. Tim Kaine, who's professor of the history of higher education, University of Georgia, has been really instrumental in helping to shape these syllabus materials, and as have the other CDAF fellows. So CDAF, we're lucky enough to have 15 faculty and non-faculty, academic staff, and others who regularly meet to talk about issues of academic freedom and to strategize how to defend academic freedom. And one of the issues that came out of those very early conversations was a need for an academic freedom syllabus. And so what I'm presenting today is part of now a year-long kind of discussion about what to include on that academic freedom syllabus and what that should include and discussions about its content. So I want to extend a very generous thank you to the CDAF fellows, as well as to the Department of Academic Freedom, Tenure, and Governance at the AUP. So DAFG staff, including Anita Levy, Mike DeCesar, Mike Criley, and David Longcamp, are really incredible resources at the AUP, incredibly knowledgeable about all things academic freedom. If you have issues on your campus, if you think your academic freedom is being violated, if you want to know if your handbook or your collective bargaining agreement is in alignment with AAUP principles, you can reach out to DAFG at academicfreedom@aaup.org. You can send an email to them. Incredibly helpful in terms of helping AAUP members kind of understand and navigate AAUP principles as they pertain to academic freedom. And it's just a real honor to be working with Anita and Michael and Mike and Mark and David. So basically, what I want to do today is to just give you a quick a quick tour of what's on the website at the DAF or the CDAF website, and to give a tour of what we've included in the academic freedom syllabus. Just kind of show you what's there, help walk through it, and kind of explain how you might use it. And then I want us to do just a little activity. It's one of the activities that opens up the syllabus. So it'll be a chance for me to figure out, does this activity work? And for you to get a sense of what kinds of resources are available. And then what I want to do is solicit feedback kind of about what other kinds of resources you'd like to see on the academic freedom syllabus. And then if there's time, I'll show you some of the other stuff that's available on the center's website. How does that sound? Does that sound good? Excellent. I'm seeing some thumbs up and some nods. We're on a big Zoom meeting. That's what. Yes, excellent, fabulous. And just to note, there was some questions about this being recorded. The whole video will not be distributed. The goal is to see if there's a few minutes in there in which I'm providing an overview of the syllabus materials that can be then turned into a shorter video that can be distributed as a kind of tutorial moving forward. So there's like this whole a webinar won't be distributed, probably just the portions in which I'm sharing my screen and kind of navigating through the website. And also, I should note that this will probably not take the full hour and 15 minutes. We're all getting to that point in the semester, in the summer, the end of the semester, or the beginning of the semester, or the ends of the summer, in which time is incredibly an increasingly rare supply. So I think that we'll be able to keep it for kind of less time. So let me just give you a tour of the resources that we have made available at the academic freedoms syllabus. Let me share screen. There we go. So if you go to the Center for the Defense of Academic Freedom, you can just find that by Googling Center for the Defense of Academic Freedom. You'll find a series of resources that we provide, including the academic freedom syllabus. If you go to that page, there's 3 resources that we have bundled together that we're calling the academic freedom syllabus. And they do slightly different things. So I'll just kind of go through them and kind of show you what's there. And then, yeah, so the first one is our academic freedom syllabus language. This came out of a conversation about the ways that we as teachers can help our students understand what academic freedom is, right? In order to defend academic freedom, it's helpful if as many people as possible understand what academic freedom is, including our own students. And that, you know, as we're teaching classes, we are in a unique position to be able to teach our students about what academic freedom is, and also maybe even more importantly, what it's not. So as the fellows, I brought this question to the fellows of how should we design academic freedom syllabus language? And my idea was, I'm just going to throw a bunch of AAUP policies at you and let you know what the AAUP policies are around academic freedom in the classroom. My fellows, in a credit to them, said that's not a very good idea. Like, that's not the best approach. That's not very pedagogical at all. So instead, what we did is we developed this much more pedagogical approach to kind of explaining what academic freedom in the classroom is and developing some syllabus language. So what we did is there's one section here, which is just basically that summary. It's a brief summary of AAUP policies. That there's a lot of very kind of clear, well thought out, incredibly persuasive policies and statements around what academic freedom means in the classroom that the AAUP has developed now over a century's worth of work. And so what we wanted to do is just to provide a very quick overview of some of those policies and some of the main kind of AUP definitional understandings of what academic freedom means in the context of teaching in a higher education classroom. So this the first section just kind of goes over what does the AUP mean by academic freedom in the classroom. We then took those kinds of general policy understanding and turned it into kind of some high level kind of thematic things that we should include. So instead of saying, here are the policies, here's the rules, instead turning it into a set of principles. And again, this goes to, that part of the syllabus that you may have in your class where you say, here's the expectations, right? Here's what I expect from you as a citizen or as a member and a participant in this particular class. Here's the kinds of things that I expect from you. And so kind of took those AUP principles and kind of distilled them into a set of kind of what is it that the principles of academic freedom lead us to expect of our students, right? And then we developed that from those principles into some a syllabus language right here. And the expectation is that if you find this language compelling, just cut and paste it from the website and throw it into your own syllabus. I'll read it right here because I think that we did a pretty good job. Higher education is predicated on the exchange, vetting, and deliberation of often controversial and unsettled ideas. So again, one of the principles is to help students understand that a classroom is not just people coming and kind of sharing their own half-baked ideas or opinions, but is part of an ongoing academic process of vetting ideas and testing ideas. In this particular class, for example, we explore how philosophers address questions of justice or whatever. You can tailor that. We are not here simply to express personal opinions or repeat talking points, but rather to engage in a set of ideas and research findings that have a long and complicated history and are therefore subject to ongoing debate. Committed students and scholars can and do disagree on the topics we will be discussing. The syllabus has been designed to bring these controversies and disagreement to the fore. Students are also invited to introduce additional challenges in a serious and open-minded manner. And this paragraph here is really intended to demonstrate that there's not like there's been a lot of effort that's gone into saying, oh, academics have a certain bias. They only tell one side of the story. They're discrediting all of these other views, when we know that as good teachers, we include lots of different ideas and opinions and different arguments into the construction of our own classes. And that's part of what the scholarly exchange is to bring together disagreements and to curate those in a way that our students can engage in those disagreements. So just to let the students know that this isn't like me brainwashing you or engaged in some sort of propaganda. It's me demonstrating that there's a lot of arguments around this particular topic that we're here to discuss, and that that's what we're here to do, is to engage in these disagreements, which are the ones that are presented on the syllabus, as well as those that can emerge from the students, but in a serious and open-minded manner. So again, repeating talking points is not the same thing as engaging in an academic and scholarly debate. Such conversations require mutual respect. It is therefore essential that students feel free to express their deeply held views and continually developing perspectives. This means ensuring that all students and faculty feel included and welcome to engage in discussion, because hateful and discriminatory speech and behavior degrades the possibility of a free exchange of ideas. It will not be tolerated. So that's the academic freedom syllabus language that we came up with. And again, it was designed to be very pedagogical, to set the tone at the beginning of the class, to, that day when you go through and give an overview of your syllabus, you can spend time and talk about what this understanding of academic freedom means in terms of the norms of how we treat each other in the classroom. So I'll take a pause there. Is there any questions or comments or thoughts before we go on to the next part of the materials that we provided here? there's any thoughts or comments. Um, it's great. I know it's hard on a big old Zoom.
This looks good, but keep going.
Okay, great. I'll do that. So the next thing that we have is in addition to the academic freedom syllabus language, is we also have what we're calling the academic freedom module. And the idea is that um, it can be really hard to teach about academic freedom. I know as a grad student, I was in grad school for 10 years, and I received no training on what academic freedom was. Nobody sat down. And that included a professional development class, right, where I was trained to be a teacher, trained to design syllabi, trained to do all kinds of things. But I never had any sort of training in what academic freedom was. It was only through activism with the AAUP and being involved in the AAUP that I learned, oh, wait a minute, there's a whole set of principles and policies and standards around what academic freedom is. And I kind of had to learn that kind of by myself. And so one of the things that the fellows at CDAF came up with was that it would be really great to develop just a module that can be inserted into lots of different places. So we designed this module so that you could add it to a graduate student seminar. So any graduate student seminar, you could take this and just plunk it onto your syllabus. You could also adapt it for an undergraduate class. I teach a class on the politics of higher education, and I think that when I do that, I will turn this material into a day or two, a discussion on what academic freedom is. But it can also be used for professional development courses or first-year faculty orientation. So I know that Trinity does, like, all the first-year faculty come and do first-year faculty orientations. In the spring, I taught this kind of seminar, or a kind of a beta version of it, to the kind of first-year seminar colloquium of first-year faculty, and kind of got them thinking and talking about what academic freedom is. And it could also be used as the basis for a discussion, a faculty reading group, or even a conversation. I went to the University of Michigan's Faculty Senate, Zoomed me in for a session, and I had a kind of a conversation about academic freedom based on this module at that Senate meeting, so that the faculty Senate were thinking about kind of issues of academic of freedom, and what it is and what it is not. So what have we included in this a module? So first of all, it's we lay out our learning objectives as to just kind of give a kind of historical and conceptual understanding of what academic freedom is, just kind of like the nuts and bolts kind of first cut understanding of academic freedom. Explain why it's important, and understand the difference between academic freedom and free speech, which I think is a really kind of hard kind of distinction for people to wrap their heads around. And I think it's a really important distinction to make. And then to then be able to apply this understanding to specific controversies on their campuses. And so what we have is we suggest a reading, which is this really excellent chapter on academic freedom, this out in this just published book, University Keywords, edited by Andy Hines. And this is just a brilliant 10-page or so distillation of what academic freedom is, its history, its context. And it gives a really nice introduction that's both historical and conceptual. And it's just a really clear place to start a conversation about academic freedom. But then in addition to that, we also have our academic freedom reading list, which includes a bunch of other readings on academic freedom, including AUP statements and reports, as well as really great kind of a curated list of scholarly secondary work on academic freedom, including some of my own favorites. Finken and Post, of course, just being a fantastic overview of academic freedom, and Hank Reichman's recently published Understanding Academic Freedom is just an incredible book that provides a really synoptic understanding of academic freedom. And then we also provide a bunch of kind of topical, recommendations. And this is what we're calling the academic freedom reading list. And the idea is that if you are, depending upon what kind of course you're teaching, right, you could assign this singular reading. But if you can also, if let's say you have a grad student seminar and the expectations is students are reading, 100 or so pages, you could grab some other material from the academic freedom reading list and add and adapt. Or let's say you're in a law school and you're really interested in this question of First Amendment law, then you can kind of assign pieces that are specific to thinking about the relationship between academic freedom and free speech. If you're in the medical school, likewise, you can think about academic freedom in the context of medical school, and you can kind of adapt your own syllabus and readings on the syllabus, drawing from that academic freedom reading list. But then, not only that, we then offer a lesson plan that kind of lays out. It's just kind of like you could grab it off the shelf and teach it as is, or you can do your you can modify it to meet your own needs. The first one is an opening activity, which we'll do here in just a second when we're done with this overview. But then, and that just is designed to get people thinking about what academic freedom is and the various dilemmas the faculty and academic workers run up against. But we've also included an academic freedom presentation, and this goes into the history of the AAUP, of academic freedom, the various important statements, how academic freedom comes to be conceptualized within the AAUP, and it kind of goes up and kind of lays out that kind of conceptual and historical context. And then in addition to the PowerPoint presentation, we also have lecture notes that go along with those slides, right? That kind of give you additional material that's not on the slides, that provides more information, including some suggestions about how to tie in that the kind of content that's in the PowerPoint slides with the opening activity and conversation. So this is like all syllabuses and PowerPoints. This is a work in progress. So as we get more feedback and whatnot, this will be updated. But the most up-to-date version is available on the website. And then once we've the idea is to have this kind of presentation, kind of a lecture style in some sort, and then to have a kind of focused discussion that tries to get at this distinction between academic and freedom and free speech. And the idea for this came from one of the fellows who teaches in the law school, and I found it to be a really kind of compelling way to think about the distinction between academic freedom and free speech. And what we do is we have this quote from this famous Weinman versus Updegraff, which is in 1915, Oklahoma had a loyalty oath requirement where they required all faculty to sign a loyalty oath. Justice Frankfurter, that was overthrown on the grounds of freedom of assembly, but Justice Frankfurter wrote a concurring decision in which they laid out a kind of a broader exposition of what faculty and what teachers in higher education do that's different from just convening as a political group, or it's not simply the rights of assembly or the rights of free speech. That what faculty do for society and for a democratic society are different than, say, what than one speaking as an individual on issues in which you as an individual might be compelled to speak on. And so this quote kind of is part of that concurring decision in which he lays out that kind of understanding of what it is that teachers in a democracy do. And then in addition to that quote, we provided some notes. Again, this is kind of in the process of being developed that kind of help you walk through kind of how to guide a conversation about what Felix Frankfurter is thinking about academic freedom and its distinction from free speech. And then we conclude with just some general conversation questions that you can add to kind of keep the conversation going there. And so again, like this is just off the shelf a lesson plan that you should feel free to use in total or use parts of, or a look at, grab some of the resources, discard the rest. And then of course we're always welcome to provide, we're always looking forward to feedback that helps us know what works and didn't work in your own teaching, as we know that our own teaching materials get better the more we teach them, and the more experience we have teaching them. We would love the opportunity to hear from you. Did you teach the syllabus? Did it work or not? So again, these are the three kind of aspects of the academic freedom syllabus: um, the syllabus, a language, the academic freedom module, and then that third part is that academic freedom, a reading list that can be used to augment and enrich your syllabus, or as a kind of a standalone a resource or tool. So that's that's my tour of what we have at the CDAF website in terms of the academic freedom syllabus. Before we jump to the opening or the activity, would love to hear any thoughts or questions. Yeah, Hiba, I think